The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and gone. Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good. Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champs.
Foley three. Goal! Foley ball. Down Shelley. Three ball. Goal! Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and welcome to the second floor of the Casanova Center. Well, we thought we were going to be previewing Ducks and Dogs today. Unfortunately, with the uptick in COVID-19 cases within the University of Washington football program, they're not able to make the trip, so we will not have Ducks and Dogs on the gridiron coming at you tomorrow. However, we will still have Oregon basketball on the road in Seattle taking on Washington with a 5 o'clock tip-off on Saturday. Full preview of that is coming up. We'll take your comments and questions. The Ducks were able to work out this morning. Oregon normally would have a Fast Friday developmental squad scrimmage, and they'd go through a number of things in preparation for their opponent. Without an opponent today, the Ducks did still work out, but they don't know who their next opponent is going to be. They're waiting to see who the next opponent will be. Depending on how things shake out this weekend around the conference and then what the Pac-12 announces and decides for matchups next week, that's what we're waiting for. Probably going to know more on Sunday after all these games take place. We will still make our North Fork Public House picks today, and I know a lot of people are wondering about all these different speculating issues of, well, could the Ducks get somebody else here? Could the Ducks play? I have no insider information on that because I don't think anybody knows. But I will just say to everybody, the logistics of making this stuff happen, it's a challenge. I mean, getting an equipment truck, a flight, all these different things. So, look, I hope that the cases up in Seattle don't prove to be too serious and everybody makes a fast and healthy recovery. And then we'll see what happens next week. But unfortunately, that's really what we know, as the Pac-12 yesterday issued the following statement regarding the Washington-Oregon football game previously scheduled for December 12th, saying, quote, after consultation with Washington, the Pac-12 conference announced the game involving Washington at Oregon, scheduled for Saturday, has been canceled. This decision was made under the Pac-12's football game cancellation policy due to Washington not having the number of scholarship student-athletes available for the game due to a number of positive football student-athlete COVID-19 cases and resulting isolation of additional football student-athletes under contact tracing protocols. Under conference policy, the game will be declared a no contest. Now, obviously, it stinks. But it is 2020, and the Ducks, fortunate that they have not had issues so far this season as many other teams have seen games get canceled. Rob Mullins also issued the following statement after the Ducks found out that the game was in fact canceled, saying, quote, the health and safety of all student-athletes is always the top priority, and our thoughts are with those at Washington and everywhere who have been impacted by this virus. We're disappointed for our Oregon football student-athletes who have done everything right and who have been fully committed to all safety protocols from the start. Our team was excited for the opportunity to play for the Pac-12 North Division title this weekend in this great rivalry, and we will continue to practice in anticipation of our next game. That statement from Rob Mullins, Oregon Athletic Director. He issued it yesterday. So the Ducks did work out today. Again, don't know who the next opponent is going to be, but you can still sharpen a few things up, and that's what the Ducks are going to be doing now as we move forward. So we'll find out what happens and who the Ducks' next opponent is going to be. Also, a cool note before we hear from the voice of the Ducks, Jerry Allen. Disney announced a ton of stuff yesterday. Nerds like me rejoice, right? And Scott Phillips, too. Maybe Jerry also. I don't know. Maybe Jerry was rejoicing for the Disney announcements yesterday. I guess we'll find out. But one cool thing, everybody, Disney is producing a movie based on the life of Keenan Lowe, former Oregon wide receiver who bravely disarmed a gunman at a high school when he was working. And he's also just all around a great guy. Disney has made so many of those inspirational sports movies over the years, and I'm just so excited that Ducks and Keenan Lowe are able to celebrate that way. Elsewhere on today's show, we've got Jerry Allen talking about the situation. Also going to make our North Fork Public House picks. Mike Jorgensen's going to make our North Fork Public House picks. And we had already scheduled an interview with the voice of the Huskies, Tony Castricone, and I thought we were going to spend like 10 minutes talking about football and like 2 minutes talking about basketball. Instead, we ended up spending like 2 minutes talking about football and 10 minutes talking about basketball because we still have Ducks and Dogs tomorrow at 5 o'clock, 4:30 pregame show across the Oregon Sports Network. And we had been telling you, for those of you who are going to tune in to Eugene and Portland, that it would be on different radio stations with football. Well, now it'll be regularly on 1080 The Fan up in Portland and on 95.3 The Score here in Eugene. Back to regular programming, if you will, and programming schedules for Oregon men's basketball. And Kelly Graves talked to the media just a little while ago previewing Sunday's matchup with Oregon State. So still a lot to get to, and we have Jerry Allen on the horn. Jerry's got a different backdrop today. Normally he's in, I call it his home studio. It's his duck cave. But instead today he's got the Christmas tree behind him. And Jerry, it's good to see you, my friend. How are things?
Yeah, doing well. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me all right? I didn't even check my audio.
Are you there?
Yeah, or it's got laughs, so I know you can hear.
You gave it away.
Oh, that backfired on you.
Yeah, voice of the Ducks, Jerry Allen, joining us. Look, Jerry, we always do this every Friday. We usually are doing a little game preview, but you know what? It's 2020. I think the Ducks pretty fortunate that it took this long in the season to have a game get interrupted like this, don't you?
Yeah, I really expected it at any moment from the time they started. I kind of go back to the late start for the Pac-12 and wish that they would have had a couple of weeks earlier to allow for some of these cancellations the way some of the other conferences did. But they took into account the safety and the measure of student athletes, and they wanted to do it a little better. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation. It's unfortunate. I mean, I feel bad for me. You feel bad. The fans feel bad. But I feel for the student athletes who work so hard day in and day out, not only to get to this position at this level, but then once they're here doing all that work and don't get to show for it Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The student athletes, and I know that, look, people on social media and all these different things, you can say what you will about that now Washington wins the division. And look, these guys are all competitors, man. They want to compete, and they want to do everything possible to keep competing. That's why they've made so many sacrifices as they've had on both sides of this rivalry, all across the country, to keep playing, because that's what student athletes want to do. They're competitive. That's what the coaches want to do, because they're competitive. But we'll find out. So Jerry, I mean, any advice for turning around and getting ready for a broadcast on a moment's notice?
Why? You think we might have to do that?
I have no idea. I have literally no idea. But be ready for anything.
It's like this. It's like the NCAA tournament basketball. You don't know who you're going to play sometimes until after they've played, after you've played. And so you get ready for a game in a moment's notice. So it's all doable. It's as doable for us and maybe even easier for us than it is for the teams who have to prepare.
Also, I just have to one more note before we make picks and talk basketball. So John Sargent, who's been on the show, we love him. He's in charge of concessions here at the University of Oregon. He's still had, for those of us that are working at the games and in the press box, he has still prepared the O cookies, as Jerry knows, and he tweeted out today that they were all boxed up and packaged and ready to go, and now, unfortunately, there's no one to eat them. So, Jerry, John, if you're listening, I can give you my address. Jerry, I'll do the same for you if you'd like some O cookies shipped, because that was the saddest tweet I've seen in a long time when John Sargent was like, we got all the O cookies, and there's nowhere for them to go.
There have been many games when that's all I had for lunch. Didn't eat anything else, just the O cookies. But they're all boxed up and ready to go. I'll bet you they can find somewhere in town that needs those for the homeless or people who are disadvantaged. I hope that's what they do with those.
No doubt about that. So, John Sargent, Good work, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Good work, as always. All right, well, we do have some North Fork Public House picks to make. Unfortunately, this is not going to involve Oregon. We thought that it would. So, Jerry, I'm just going to update you because last week with Scott Phillips pinch hitting for you, Scott actually had a pretty good week, Jerry. So I think that you should be –
Really?
you should be proud. So are you going to thank him?
After I hear the results.
Okay. Jerry and Jorgie both last week went 3-2. Jerry,
thank you, Scotty. All right.
Yeah, I get part of this victory.
Jerry is still in first place. Jerry has 12 correct picks, but I went 4-1.
Oh.
I'm still one behind you.
It takes perfection to beat me. Okay, I'm just telling you. Well, I shouldn't have said that. That's a kiss of death. That's a kiss of death right there. I won't get one right this week now.
So where we stand, we've got Jorgie and I sitting in second place at 11. The coin is pretty much out of it at this point. 6 correct picks, trailing Jerry by 6 for first place. So
Thank you very much.
Coin's probably out of it. But because I won, that means I have to pick first, unfortunately for me. But that also means I do have a deferral, and there's a few games to potentially defer this week. So I have to pick first, then Jerry, and then we've got Jorgie actually coming up a little later on in the show because Jorgie actually has a day job. Can't just mess around with us for a half an hour every Friday. So Jorgie did make his picks, and we've got those for you coming up, but he technically has to go last because that's the way that the rules are written. Tonight's game, 4 o'clock on ESPN, Arizona State, Arizona. Which Arizona team is going to get its first victory, Jerry?
So you're deferring?
I'm not deferring, but I'm glad that you were on it. Wow, he was ready. Did you guys see that?
You're pulling that on me.
I tried to pull the fast one. I think Arizona State's going to win. I think Arizona State's a better team, even though it's on the road. Arizona has just been all kinds of discombobulated this year. Arizona State's the more talented team. I think Arizona State gets its first win, especially as now they've been back practicing after their interruption in their season. I think Arizona State gets the win, Jerry.
Yeah, Arizona can't stop the run and can't pass enough to overcome Arizona State's run game. Arizona State's 48% third down conversions, Arizona only 20%. So I'm going to jump up and say Arizona State to win the game.
What else is new with Jerry doing it that way? 9 a.m. on Fox, Utah, Colorado. That game got moved to a Saturday morning game, by the way. Colorado is a less than field goal favorite at home against Utah. I still have a hard time trusting Colorado. I have no idea what's going to happen now that Utah has been able to practice after their interruption in their season. Going to have a few more guys back for availability. But I'll tell you what, Colorado's defense has been pretty darn good, and Colorado has always seemed to find a way to win. I like Colorado here, Jerry. I really do. I like Colorado.
Yeah, you look at the numbers. Colorado's undefeated. I mean, you got to give them something for that. Utah run defense is number one, but Colorado can run the ball, in the words of the great American Mike Jorgensen. Both are at the bottom of the game in passing, but Utah, Utah, if they can just slow the run down, I think they could win this game. But I just think Colorado runs the ball well enough to be able to throw the ball over the Utes when they need to, and I think Colorado wins this ball game as well.
All right, that's a good pick. That's a pretty good pick there. 1 o'clock. This game is now replacing Oregon and Washington in the 1 o'clock window on Fox. Cal Washington State. This is a tough pick. I think this is actually No, it's not my toughest pick. I take that back. But this is a really tough pick. I don't think that Cal necessarily played lights out against Oregon, but I think we saw that Cal's defense is probably just good enough to let them hang in there. And when their offense gets rolling, Cal's a tough team to beat. Now, Washington State has been a little bit of an enigma to me, and that's why I'm going to take Cal in this game. I think Cal's probably feeling pretty good after getting a win over Oregon, and that's a Cal team that's gotten better every week they've played. I think they continue to get better every week, and I'm going to take Cal, but I don't feel great about it, Jerry.
Well, this we're not going to lose any ground on this one, either one of us. The running games are pretty much a push. Washington State's run defense is pretty good. Cal's is okay, but I think that's a wash. Cougars' passing game is very good. I mean, they throw 240, 50 yards a game, but the Cal's pass D is pretty good too, so they kind of cancel out a little bit, I think. Cougar pass D, terrible, giving up 300 yards a game. So Cal struggles to throw the ball, but I think the Cougars run D stops Utah enough, gets Cal the ball enough that they may throw a few picks in this game, but I think Cal will throw the ball all over the field against the Cougars, and Cal wins the game.
Okay, 4:30, USC and UCLA on ABC. This is a big one. This is the battle for Los Angeles, and I think this is actually the toughest pick of the week. I defer to Jerry Allen.
Oh man, this is the tough one. Was there even an odds on this game? I didn't see anything. It's got to be like a push. USC is 4-0. I don't think they're a good 4-0. I think they're a lucky 4-0. UCLA is 3-2 and getting better. I think UCLA wins the run game, and that right there, this speaks volumes because USC cannot run the ball. And I think UCLA will be able to handle USC's passing game somewhat because I think they made a pin their ears back and come because USC can't run the ball. So if USC gets any run game, they can win this one. But if UCLA can run the ball, then they'll be able to pass enough. And if they can run the ball, I think they beat USC easily. UCLA.
Interesting. Really interesting there. Good thing I don't have to make a pick till after Jorgie makes his. Stanford and Oregon State coming up. ESPNU 7:30. That's the last game of the evening. This is a really, really interesting matchup. I feel like Stanford, they've been through so much, man. Doing a walkthrough in a park, but they've gotten better and better each week. The run game seems to have returned for Stanford a little bit. The defense has been limiting teams much more than they were earlier. But getting Jamar Jefferson back, another week with a quarterback practicing with the ones. Does Oregon State get the win? I'm going to say no. I think Stanford gets the win here. I think it's going to be really close, though. Might come down to who has the ball last. I think I'm going to pick Stanford, but I don't feel good about it, Jerry.
Well, as this season has gone on, some teams have improved dramatically enough so you can see that they got slow starts. I think Stanford is one of those teams. I'm not going to say they got a slow start, but they weren't very much in rhythm. They're more in rhythm now, but I think the Beavers are too. The Beavers can run the ball, and there's that old axiom: if you can run the ball, you can control the game. Stanford slight advantage, I think, in throwing the ball, but I like the Beavers because they're at home. They're playing well at home. The crowd is crazy at home. Oh, yeah, there's no crowd. Let's see. That might change everything. Wow. Ouch. This is going to kill me, but I'm going to say Oregon State. I'm going to pick the Beavers at home.
He's riding or dying with the Beavers.
I'm not riding or doing anything with the Beavers. They're on their own. Okay? They are on their own.
Jerry Allen, voice of the Ducks. Jerry, well, we'll see what happens. Our North Fork Public House picks. I got to flip the coin, and then I got to finish up making all of my picks after we hear from Mike Jorgensen. Well, Jerry, I wish that we were back calling football, but instead we got basketball coming up, which is going to be an interesting game. I think we're going to learn a lot about Oregon men's basketball here coming up tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Oh, they are so talented, so loaded, and they are a typical Dana Altman team. Slow coming together because all the new pieces, but he is such a great teacher that by the time you get into the meat of the season and later on, Joey, you know how dominating they are going to be. By the way, I still think we got another football game or two in our belts this year, so it ain't over yet.
I'm with you. Jerry Allen, he's the voice of the Ducks. We'll talk to you, my friend. Thank you for the time. North Fork Public House picks. I hope that all your picks were wrong. Thanks, Jerry.
Scotty, thanks for your help last week.
Yeah, boo you. All right. No. He wants you to share, by the way, when you lose.
Share what?
I get part of that free dinner, Jerry.
Okay, you can have the French fries.
So
Why do I get the scraps? The leftovers.
well, now hold on a second here. If you're wanting to take some of the victory, that means you got to take the loss too.
Well, I didn't want that part. I just want the victory part. My picks were good. My picks helped the leader.
No, they didn't.
I went 3-2.
I went 4-1.
Yeah, but Jerry and I are still in first place.
Now it's Jerry and I. See how that happened, Jerry?
Oh, we're teammates now. Is that it?
Okay.
Teammates.
So when Jerry loses, then you're in on payment.
Then I cannot pay you like they have.
We're
Well, he has a
waiting.
point there. He has a point there.
Waiting till the end of the pandemic. Take a break. Mike Jorgensen's with us next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
See you guys.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield IMG College.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
We continue on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, live from inside the Country Financial Studio. Ducks and Huskies, unfortunately, off for Saturday, which means Oregon football is still practicing and looking forward toward their next opponent. We'll find out who that is after this weekend of action. But we do continue with our North Fork Public House picks. In the spirit of time, I'm going to flip the coin while you listen to Mike Jorgensen make his picks, and Scott Phillips is going to be my witness. Mike Jorgensen joined us yesterday, actually, to make his picks, and then I still got one more to make. Jorgie joining us. All right, it's time for some North Fork Public House picks. Okay, Jorgie, where we sit and, made picks with Jerry. Now going to do it with you. Where we sit after a pretty good week from yours truly, going 4-1. I feel pretty good about that. And I am now sitting still one pick behind Jerry, but technically now, Jorgie, I have to pick ahead of you. So I'm going to go through and give them to you fast.
So we're tied?
You and I are tied with 11 correct picks.
Yeah, all right.
Jerry has 12 correct picks.
Wow.
And the coin is at 6 picks. 6 correct picks. Not a good year for the coin. Not a good year
that's
for the
a good thing.
Yeah, not a good year for the coin at all. All right, our North Fork Public House picks. Let's start with the game that is scheduled for Friday, Jorgie. Arizona State, Arizona. Who's going to get the first win of the season?
I know, that's right. I think it's the Sun Devils. I'm taking the Sun Devils in this one. I just think Jaden Daniels and the Sun Devils getting their legs under them, getting a few more snaps in. You know, they played a tremendous opening game with USC and didn't play forever until they played an improved UCLA team, frankly. I think a UCLA team that's playing probably some of the best football in the league right now and is a dangerous team. and that was a close one this last weekend. I don't think Arizona's played particularly well other than that USC game, so I'm going to take the Sun Devils.
All right, next up is the 9 a.m. game, if you can believe that. We got Utah, Colorado at 9 a.m. Who's going to pull an upset? Anybody or no, Jorgie?
And that game is where?
In Colorado.
I mean, I guess elevation's not a big deal when you're coming from Salt Lake and going to Boulder for the most part. You know, we talked about it last week. I have a hard time trusting an undefeated Colorado team. And yet I don't see an overwhelming Utah team offensively to be able to score points if this becomes a game that gets into the 30s. But right now, I'll tell you what, I like the confidence of Colorado, and I like the confidence of the Buffs, and not necessarily that playing at home is going to be an advantage because there's no one there, but I just think they really believe in what they're doing. You know, Utah had to hold on at home last week against an Oregon State team that frankly believes that they can do things in the second half when you talk about second halves. But I'm taking the Buffs in this one. I like what they're doing, and it's kind of refreshing to see them doing what they're doing.
I agree with you 100%. It's a cool story with Sam Neuer, obviously, some Oregon connections at quarterback for Colorado. I agree with you. How about 4:30 on ABC, USC and UCLA, the battle for L.A.?
And that's in the Rose Bowl. And
that
again,
is.
Not that home field necessarily matters, but
I knew this would be the one that would get him.
well, it's just that UCLA is playing so well right now, and they'll score points, and USC will give up points. And right now, the surprising thing is when you look at UCLA defensively, how well they're doing, and the amount of sacks that they've had so far this season, clearly the top in the league. So they put pressure on the quarterback, which can create and force some errors. I think UCLA, I'm taking the Bruins. I'm taking the Bruins in the upset here. And frankly, I'd love to see USC get beat.
Good pick. Good pick. Damn.
There's just something about them. And it just seems like, in a way, and I don't know what the record's been like the last 4 or 5 years between those two teams, but it seems like UCLA has always kind of been their Achilles heel towards the end of the season, even when UCLA hasn't necessarily been playing well. And I think they're playing pretty well this year. So, yeah, I'm taking the Bruins.
Yeah, a few close games also still on the docket. Stanford, Oregon State, your North Fork Public House pick there.
I tell you, Stanford right now might be playing some of the best football in the league, frankly. I mean, and they'll show up in a city park and practice before a game and then show up on the field and play some pretty high-quality football right now. You know, with Davis Mills playing like he is, and they're playing much better defense, particularly against the run, which is what Oregon State's really going to have to lean on this week with Jamar Jefferson. And you know, offensively, they were good late in the game last week. With an extra week of practice for the quarterback, that might help him out a little bit, let alone getting Jamar Jefferson back. But, well, I'll tell you what, I don't think Stanford cares. And I'm taking the Cardinal in this game.
Yeah, I think that – dang. These are good picks by Jorgie today. Good picks. Cal, Washington State. That's kind of an interesting game for me, Jorgie. I think that might be a coin flip.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cal is getting – better each week. Not that I necessarily think they played very well last week. I think Oregon didn't play well, so that helped Cal to victory, no doubt about it. And, you know, Washington State, they just haven't played enough football this year to know what you're going to see. I mean, they played a great opening game against Oregon State before they figured out who they were. They struggled against an Oregon team that was playing pretty well at that time and had come off a victory and really got things rolling up in the Palouse. And then last week, you know, they're down, 31 or 38 to nothing with USC before they even get on the board for the most part. But these two teams are so evenly matched. Where's the game again?
Game's at Washington State.
Okay, I don't have the schedule right here in front of me. Gosh dang, I should be looking at that. I knew they were playing, but I thought they were playing at Cal. The Cal played at home last week, right? So they got to be on the road.
He's having a hard time. Tough pick.
This is like a coin toss. Can I use the coin?
Do you want me to flip the coin for you?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Yeah. I'll take heads. No, heads is the home team, tails is so I'll take whatever you get.
Isn't that the coin flip?
Yeah, right. I mean, heads I win, tails you lose, right?
Yeah. Okay. Tails. Road team. California. Hey, I want you to know I flipped a coin for a game last week and I won.
Okay.
So
I'll stick with it.
all right. So Jorgie going with Arizona State, Colorado, Cal, Stanford, UCLA. I have a feeling that this is the week where separation occurs between all of us. I really do.
Yeah, could be. Well, at least I'm tied for second for now. So
For now. Our North Fork Public House picks always brought to you by North Fork Public House, open for dine-in and takeout, northforkeugene.com. Jorgie, we'll see you when we see you, sir. Thank you for the time.
Okay, look forward to it. Thanks.
Mike Jorgensen, kind enough to join us. So that leaves me just with USC, UCLA. I got to take UCLA. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that those guys just had to go and make good picks.
Who would have thought?
I know.
Especially Jorgie.
Meanwhile, the coin, we flipped it during that. Arizona, Colorado, Washington State, Stanford, USC for the coin. The coin's out of it, though. Mathematically, it's almost impossible for the coin to catch up. So that means the only difference in picks is Jorgie and I are one pick behind Jerry. The only difference in picks is that Jerry Allen's taking Oregon State. Jorgie and I are taking Stanford. So Jerry's either going to be up 2 heading into championship week, or we're going to be all tied up. All tied up heading into the last week. Our North Fork Public House picks. All right, when we come back, we're going to chat with Tony Castricone, the voice of the Huskies. Thought we'd be previewing football. Instead, he's on the horn, and we're going to talk with him about a little bit of basketball and beyond on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports-watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you inside the Country Financial Studio. And joining us via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line, Tony Castricone. He's the voice of the Huskies. Probably not a member of the University of Oregon Alumni Association, but might be a member of his alma mater's Alumni Association, Ohio, Alumni Association?
For a brief second, I thought maybe we'd have OU versus UO. And it was just going to be like these two worlds colliding for me in a way that I never in a million years anticipated. But alas, it looks like we're both we're both taking the weekend off, unfortunately.
Well, for football anyway. But the reason that we kept the interview with Tony is that in the almighty brilliance of the Pac-12, we've got gridiron and hardwood matchups between the Ducks and the Dogs this weekend. 5 o'clock coming up. Tony will have the call on the Washington side of things on the radio network. And Tony, I mean, let's just start though first with just, damn. I think everybody wanted to play this game. You and I certainly wanted to play this game. Just, it's 2020. It is what it is, right?
It is, and it's just the level of disappointment is just so huge because Joey, you know this just from being around it, and so for the players and coaches, it's amplified times 1,000. We love our jobs, we love doing this, but we love doing it a whole lot more when it's Washington, Oregon than we do when it's Washington versus Eastern Washington. With no disrespect to the Eagles, right? Like, I mean, it's just there's a couple games every year that you and I just really, really, really want to do. And so if you're a player or you're a coach, that's amplified by 100,000. And so everybody wanted to play this game. And I'm just heartbroken for everybody on both sides that poured so much into trying to get to this point. And truthfully, there was so much effort on both sides to try to do this the right way. And I mean, my understanding is it's not like there's a huge breakout on the Washington team where there's just like, everybody's under the weather. I mean, there's a couple asymptomatic cases, and the way the contact tracing works and everything else, I mean, it starts to take a toll on your roster in a hurry. And I think the reason it took 48 hours for them to call the game off is because I think they were doing everything imaginable they could, tweaking with the roster, playing with it, asking King County, what do you think about this? They just weren't able to get it done. And it's unfortunate because it is so, it's like Christmas morning when you wake up and it's Washington, Oregon, when you wake up and it's the Apple Cup. Like that's Christmas morning, and I just feel, I feel sad that yet again 2020 strikes in a way where we lose out on a sports part of this thing that we love. But it's not the most important thing in the world. The health and safety is, and that's what they're doing it for. And even if everybody who has contracted the virus is 100% asymptomatic and okay, they still don't want them passing it along to others who could then infect others. So the spirit behind it is the right decision, and it just stinks for everybody.
Yeah, I could have. I'm just going to take what you just said and just play that on repeat for everybody who gets upset about this, because I thought that was really well said, Tony, so thanks for saying it. I'm curious, Tony, you've been around this rivalry, 4 or 5 years now? That's about right?
This is my 4th year.
Okay, yeah. So bigger rivalry, Oregon-Washington, Washington State.
2 totally different rivalries, and the way that I put this together in my head, having experienced it now for almost a half a decade, is this: I grew up in the Midwest, and when you think of Midwest rivalries, there's nothing bigger than Michigan and Ohio State,
right?
And to me, Michigan also has this big rivalry with Michigan State. It's an in-state rival, and it's a game that everybody has circled on the calendar. It's a game where everybody knows one another. It's a game that there's a little bit of this, like, whether it's true or not, there's a little bit of this big brother, little brother thing going on. Mike Hart, Michigan running back, actually said it in 2006. It stirred up all this controversy and all this stuff. So there's that in-state rivalry, which is precious to Michigan. But then there's the game, Michigan, Ohio State. And usually if you want to win the Big Ten, you got to get through that game.
Right.
And I kind of look at I look at Washington and Oregon as kind of having that Michigan, Ohio State. Like, this is massive. This is the whole country's watching, because the whole country has respect for both brands and knows what's at stake, especially the last couple of years when both teams are ranked. And so for this to have been a 3rd straight meeting with a lot at stake, where you're this time around, it's actually the final game of the season, and the Pac-12 North would be decided by the outcome. Yeah, I get a little more goosebumpy when I wake up the morning of Washington, Oregon than I do Washington State. And that's not to say anything about the Cougs. And it's still an enormous game, the Apple Cup is. And in the state, it might mean a little bit more. But when you're looking at the 30,000-foot picture, I get up for this game. And man, I'm bummed we're not doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I love the the Ohio State-Michigan comparison, because there's something about the in-state rivalry, and then there's something about when you go across state lines, there's a little different feeling. Tony Castricone, the voice of the Huskies, joining us. All right, we do have a game to talk about, though.
That's right.
Oregon-Washington, 5 o'clock coming up on Saturday on the hardwood as Pac-12 play begins. What's the scouting report on the Huskies this year under Mike Hopkins?
Well, it's a team that is not young per se. There are veterans on the roster, but it's a team that's still trying to figure out how to play together because this set of guys does not have a whole lot of experience on the floor together. And so, you got a couple gamers out there now. I mean, Quade Green is a ball player, 5-star recruit, started his career at Kentucky, decided to transfer out west, wanted to play for Mike Hopkins in the University of Washington. And then you got some other guys that have been around the program for a while. But then there's these new faces that are still trying to figure out their role with the team. And it's just the chemistry that I think, I'll say the good news is, came together on Wednesday in a win over Seattle University, a 32-point victory. That is the best by far that we've seen this team play, like not even close. I was pleasantly surprised because even though I hoped they'd win that game, I didn't think they'd win it by 32. So they showed some real grit on the defensive end of the floor in that game, which you're always going to get effort on the defensive end of the floor from a Mike Hopkins team. But the thing is, where is this team going to score their points? Quade Green is by nature a facilitator. He's also their leading scorer by a lot. And so that kind of makes you wonder, all right, is it just the Quade Green show, or is somebody else going to step up on the offensive end of the floor? And I think that's what they're trying to find right now. You've got some guys with potential. Raekwon Battle is a sharpshooter from the outside who just doesn't have a good career percentage, probably because he's a little too eager to pull the trigger. You got Jamal Bay, who is athletic as all get out and is effective when he slashes, but maybe hasn't quite found the confidence to slash often. And I think the Huskies want him to do that a little bit more. And then Nate Roberts looks like Dwight Howard inside. I mean, like, he's got this great big physical body and just can grab the ball and throw it down. I think they're just trying to find it. And then you got Eric Stevenson, transferred from Wichita State, who was second on the team in scoring last year with the Shockers and was a 2-time American Conference Player of the Week. So there are pieces there. But, again, it's kind of like what we saw with teams getting spring football canceled, right? Like the more veteran teams early in the year that didn't have as much to figure out were maybe better in week 1 and week 2. And I think we're kind of seeing that with basketball here as well. This is a team that's still just figuring a lot of stuff out, but they're dangerous, I think. I don't think they're going to be that same team they were the first 3 games of the season all year long.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Oregon is very similar. A lot of different pieces, but some guys that redshirted last year coming back, it's going to be fascinating for me to see the way that these pieces fall together. Oregon's always known that Dane Altman's team sometimes figured out in February. Actually, oftentimes they figured out in February and March. Well, that might be true of, like, everybody this year, right? Like, It's just the way that things develop. Keys to the game tomorrow. Washington wins if what happens?
Well, so they were bludgeoned on the boards in the first 3 games in a way that just, like, was kind of hard to watch. I should say the first 2 games. They did better in Salt Lake City in Game 3 despite the loss. The keys to the game are generic Mike Hopkins keys. They don't want to give up the 3-point shot. And gosh, I have nightmares of Peyton Pritchard from 33 feet, last year. That was just ridiculous. And Washington wins that game, if not for him having an unbelievable performance.
See, I have daydreams about that. So this is the difference.
It's just a difference on the clock. That's all.
Right.
And connotation. But I think when it comes right down to it, Washington's going to have to find a way to avoid droughts and consistently score the basketball. And that's what I'm curious to see, against this caliber of a defense, how can they do that? But, they've shown growth on the boards. I think the shot selection is going to be huge for Washington. If they can do things like that, they're going to win. But I think the thing that in college basketball that you're just going to miss, I know you guys are going to miss the Matthew Knight Arena crowd. We're missing the Alaska Airlines Arena crowd. We're missing the dog pack. I mean, gosh, that atmosphere last year in Seattle on CBS was one awesome college basketball environment. And it's just different now that all this stuff is done in a bubble.
Yeah, it's going to be It's gonna be weird, man. I'm just hoping that 2021 brings better things than 2020 did. We're all hoping.
We
for
all
that.
are, aren't we?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Tony Castricone, the voice of the Huskies, our guest. Tony, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm glad that at least the Ducks and the Dogs get to play one game tomorrow. If we can't have two, it's a good consolation prize to be able to play at least a basketball game, right?
I am with you, brother.
Tony Castricone, thanks for the time, buddy. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that hoops game, hear a little bit from Kelly Graves, head coach Oregon women's basketball, because they've got a rivalry game against Oregon State. That's coming up. Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Back to the Country Financial Studio next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar presents an original that's now maybe even better. Mary had a little lamb.
Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar with the same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar that's taste was as good as the original, maybe even better.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, as good as the original, maybe even better.
This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All right, everybody in the car. Let's go.
What are we going to do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing, too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
They say that car crashes happen in slow motion. The reality is that crashes happen fast. There's no time to think and no time to check if your child is in the right car seat. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your kids in the right seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Get more info at safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. The Ducks getting ready for a couple basketball games and some big ones. We all know that football, we would have loved to play that game, but with Oregon taking on Washington and Seattle on the hardwood at 5 o'clock for the men's basketball team, 4:30 pregame tomorrow. Also, the Oregon women are in action. The Ducks with Terry Johns on the call. Corvallis. Another rivalry game. 3:30 on Sunday. Terry and Bev Smith will be on the air. I'll actually be engineering it for them. Going to be a good time. We hope that things go according to plan. This is a great, great rivalry. And today, just a little while ago, if you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, Kelly Graves met with the media. It's a Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight. Toyota Let's Go Places talking Oregon State with Kelly Graves.
Kelly, some big picture questions first before we get to this week. Emmert said that the women's tournament, the consideration is single site, San Antonio. Your thoughts on that, but also between just the backdrop of everything, Kelly, what Krzyzewski has said this week, what everybody else seems to be weighing in on, and the Pac-12 and dealing with its football, your thoughts of just at the end of this, that there's going to be integrity at the end of this, whatever this ends up being in March, that there's going to be something to be playing for, and people are going to have records that they can stand on, and if it's single site and all that.
A lot to unpack there, James. First and foremost, we're just blessed to see another day together. Okay, we've kind of taken that approach. Let's just get through today, and which is great. In the bigger picture, in terms of the single site, I really, honestly, have no opinion. Whatever we're going to be able to make work. If that guarantees that it's going to work, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case. That seems like an awful lot of people in one area, but if they feel that's I'm assuming they've done their homework on this. Coach K, Obviously, when he speaks, people listen. I read his comments. I think early on he was advocating for a post-January 1st start. So it's not like he's changed his tune. I've heard some people or seen people on Twitter, would he be saying the same thing if he was 4-0 instead of 2-2? But yeah, Coach K is a man of integrity, so he's been saying that all along. Hey, listen, I don't know if anybody still knows, man. We're blessed to see today, and that's all we can worry about. We've turned our attention to Sunday's game. And each day we're praying and hoping that next game is going to be played. So that's where I'm at, big guy. I didn't mean to duck the question, but
Kelly, do you think the fact that there won't be fans on top of you guys at Gill Coliseum will help, especially some of the younger players in this game on Sunday? And what kind of conversations have you had with some of the freshmen in particular about this game, considering Pac-12 seems to go through either you or them?
Yeah, the last 6 years, one or the other of us have won the Pac-12 regular season championship. I don't think a lot of people nationally would know that. So actually, we've had two really good programs up here. Yeah, it's a shame we had two sellouts last year. My guess is we had sellouts in the years prior too. But 22,000 fans or so, maybe even more. I don't know between the two. I'm not sure there's a better rivalry in the country right now. Two really good teams. We're so close in proximity and great fan bases. Will it help? I don't know. Some people feed off the energy even in an opposing building. Sabrina was like that. She liked going into hostile territory, so to speak, and she had great games, and she was into quieting the crowd, shutting them up. With a lot of young kids, maybe that would have been a lot to ask, but it's just so weird this year with the fans. They put that background noise in. You guys have noticed it at our place. I don't get it. I don't even know why we keep it on. It's more annoying than helpful in any way.
Oregon State's result against Utah was probably a little bit, I don't want to say surprising, maybe unexpected. When you after you guys played, and I know Utah was the first game against you guys, but when you see the results come across, you feel like you have to address that with your team of like, this Oregon State team is not necessarily a team that lost to Utah. They're a really talented team that has higher aspirations, and this rivalry is always really, really close, right?
Yeah, we've already discussed it. You can't compare scores. This game stands by itself. Listen, they're going to be fired up. In fact, it actually could help them. They're going to play with a little bit more desperation, knowing they can't lose another game at home. I wouldn't think. So they're going to be really focused, and we just got our kids. We got to make sure that they understand. Listen, you can't look at and compare scores. We just got to do the best we can do. I feel good about my teams if we just play well, but you start getting into that business. Say, well, they beat them, and then they beat them, and then they beat them. You're going to end up losing to yourself at some point.
Kelly, your last trip to Corvallis, it seems like 5 years ago, but obviously it was in January and it was quite an emotional scene there. How did that day and that event kind of change the tight-knit? I mean, you already had a tight-knit team, but it seems like Sedona was talking about it earlier this year, what that meant to her. Just how has it changed your team and your, I guess, the rivalry, Aaliyah Goodman and all them out there together with your team? Just how did that day kind of change this series and your team?
Well, certainly one of the 4 or 5 most memorable games in my tenure, not just tenure here, in my college career. It was incredible. The amount of love and focus that was generated by our team in support of Sabrina. Obviously the Kobe moment, being on the road in a place we hadn't won. It was a perfect storm.
Just a really, really great memory from Kelly Graves. We won't be able to get to his entire press conference. You can find it on the Go Ducks YouTube channel. We always have a lot of the press conferences and kind of the greatest hits of the press conferences within our show, and then also you can find them on demand on the Go Ducks YouTube page. We'll go through the full schedule as we wrap up Duck Insider. It's a busy weekend, even without football after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Okay, man, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Show the world that you're tougher than tough.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running?
That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Wrapping up Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union from inside the Country Financial Studio. Look, we all wish that we were playing football tomorrow. Fortunately, we still get Ducks and Dogs. 4:30 pregame show. 4:30 pregame show, including a conversation with Coach Altman, and then a 5 o'clock tip-off, televised on Pac-12 Network. For the Oregon women, they're going to be in action in Corvallis. Terry Johns and Bev Smith will have a 3:30 pregame show for you on Sunday, and a 4 o'clock tip. My thanks to Tony Castricone, Georgie, Jerry, Scott Phillips, I guess. Have a good weekend.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Hundo P. Hundo P. Adjective. Short for being 100% sure or certain. As in, if we get a puppy, I'll Hundo P always walk it.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the